Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you today? How are you today?
Fine.
I'm good, thank you.
So.
How about you?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. We can meet in this nice occasion. And then salawat and salam upon our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has brought us from the darkness era to the brightness era in Islam. Today we are going to have a translation presentation, and the first presenter would be Mas Shaki Mubarak. What is the title, Mas Shaki?
The title is Legal Translation.
All right. And for to shorten the time, let's open the session today by saying Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. To make it effective, I will divide presentation today into three parts. The first is opening that we have opened just now, and the presentation from Masaki, and the third is question and answer after the presentation. Okay, Masaki, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Pak Lasno. I can share the slide. Mas Fuad, please. The host disable participants.
You are the host, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Mas Fuad. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Clearly.
Yes, Mas Yaki.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
First
afternoon.
of all, I would like to say thank you very much to Pak Lasno, given opportunity to me to deliver my presentation under title Legal Translation. For me, it is a boring subject since it deals with legal. And if you feel the same, it will be okay. Okay, I will try to open this presentation by the definition of legal translation. Legal translation refers to the rendering of legal text from the source language into the target language. Legal translation is a type of specialist or technical translation, so it could be concluded that legal translation is translational activity that involves language of and related to the law and legal process. Okay, legal translation can be classified according to different criteria. It can be categorized into subject matter of the source language text, the status of the source language text, and the function of legal text in the source language. According to the subject matter of the source language text, legal translation could be translating domestic statutes or international treaties. The second, it could be translating private legal documents. It also can be translating legal scholarly works, and also it can be translating case law. In the perspective of legal translation can also be divided according to the status of the source language text. It could be translating enforceable law, such as statutes, and it can also translating non-enforceable law, for example, legal scholarly works. As well as the legal translation, it can be also classified according to the function of the legal text in the source language. The first, primarily prescriptive, for example, laws, regulation, codes, contracts, treaties, and conventions. The second is primarily descriptive, also prescriptive, such as judicial decision, legal instruments that are used to carry on the judicial and administrative proceedings, such as action, pleadings, briefs, appeals, requests, petition, etc. It can also purely descriptive, such as scholarly works written in the legal scholars, such as legal opinion, textbooks, article, or authority of which varies in different legal systems. Okay, we move into difficulties in legal translation. It is often said that legal translation is difficult and complex. In essence, the nature of the law and legal language contributes to the complexity and difficulty in legal translation. This is compounded by complication arising from crossing two languages and legal systems in translation. Accordingly, sources of legal translation difficulty include the systemic differences in law, linguistic as well as cultural differences. All these are closely related. First of all, legal language is technical language, but legal language is not a universal technical language, but one that is tied to a national legal system. Law and legal language are system bound, that is, they reflect the history, evolution, culture, and above all, the law of specific legal system. Law as an abstract concept is universal, as it is reflected in written laws and customary norms of conduct in different countries. However, legal systems are peculiar to the societies in which they have been formulated. Each society has different cultural, social, linguistic structures developed separately according to its own conditioning. Legal concept, legal norms, and application of law differ in each individual society, reflecting the differences in that society. So law is culturally and jurisdictionally specific. There are different legal systems for families such as Romano-Germanic law or continental civil law and the common law, the two most influential legal families in the world. Linguistic difficulties also arise in translation from the differences found in the legal cultures and legal systems. Legal translation is distinguished from other types of technical translation that convey universal information. In this sense, legal translation is sui generis. Each legal language is the product of a special history and culture. A basic linguistic difficulty in legal translation is the absence of equivalent terminology across different languages. This requires constant comparison between the legal systems of the source language and the target language. Lastly, cultural differences present another source of difficulty in legal translation. Law is the expression of the culture. It is expressed through legal language. As pointed out, each country has its legal language representing the social reality of its specific legal order, as stated by Sarcevic 1985. Legal translators must overcome the cultural barriers between source language and target language society when purchasing a target language version of a law originally written for the source language reader. Okay, the last slide, I think. Legal translation involves different legal text types. The common legal text types include private legal documents, domestic legislation, and the international legal instrument. The first is private legal documents. Private legal documents are drafted and used by lawyers in their daily practice on behalf of their clients. They may include deeds, contracts, Other agreement, leases, wills, and other legal texts such as statutory declaration, power of attorney, statements of claim, pleadings, and other court documents. Private legal documents often follow certain established patterns and rules in a particular jurisdiction. Agreements and contracts, which are among the most commonly translated in the private legal documents from and into English, are often written in similar styles, such as documents, for instance, drafted in English, often contain old or archaic words and expression reflecting the old drafting style, where one frequently finds words such as aforementioned, hereinafter, hereinabove, hereinunder, said, such, etc. Another common usage is word string. For instance, restriction, restraint, prohibition, intervention, change, modification, or alteration, document or agreement as amended, annulled, supplemented, varied, or replaced, arrangement, agreement, representation, or undertakings. Second is translating domestic legislation. Under this category, there are two types of situations where municipal statutes are translated. The first type is found in bilingual and multilingual jurisdiction, where two or more languages are official legal languages. For example, such as in Canada, Switzerland, Hong Kong, South Africa. Second type of translated legislation is found in any monolingual country where its law are translated into foreign language or languages for information purpose. For instance, in US and China, generally speaking, modern statutes consist of generic structures. Is the following common elements. Number one is title, number two, date, number three, preamble, number four, the enacting word. The next is substantive bodies. The next is schedule. And the last is form. The last is the translation of legal instrument in international or supranational. The translation of the legal instrument in international or supranational bodies such as United Nations or UN and the European Union EU forms in a special area of legal translation practice such as translational activities can entail translating multilingual documents such as international instrument of the UN involving several languages and translating bilateral treaties involving two languages. The translation of such legal documents of international nature as opposed to domestic laws has its own idiosyncrasy, as well as sharing the characteristic of translating law in general. One important principle in the practice of sorry for the interruption. Okay, I will continue. One important principle in the practice of the multilingual law is the principle of equal authenticity. That is, all the official language text is international treaty, whether translated or not, are equally authentic, having equal legal force. As pointed out, the importance attached to the principle of equal authenticity was intended to confer undisputable authority on each authentic text, de facto eliminating the inferior status of the authority's translation. This also carries with it that the high-level requirements for accuracy on the part of the legal translation. I think that's all my presentation. That's all I can share with you. The next, I give it back to the moderator, Pak Sulasno. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Mas Shaki. And I think it is very nice presentation that we can add our knowledge about legal action. For the next step or the next stage, we will go to the Q&A or question and answer. I think there are so many questions that in your mind, so I will give you 3 questioner first. Someone who will give the question to Mas Shaki.
Erla.
Okay, Mbak Erla. And then next to
Endang.
Miss Endang. The last,
Bintang.
Bu Lintang. Come on. All right, Bu Erla, time is yours.
Yeah, okay, thank you for the time given to me. Pak Zaki, you have told us about the difficulties in legal translation. Yeah, it were about the different legal system, linguistic differences, and cultural differences between source language and target language. My question is, can you give us briefly the examples of those kinds of difficulties, and what do you think how to solve those difficulties? Thank you.
Okay, for the next, Miss Endang.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lasno. The nice presentation for Mas Yaki. Actually, my question is the same with Miss Erla. Here, I emphasized, could you give brief explanation in this case about the example of legal text from what kind of private or domestic and international legal instrument? Could you give an example from that? Thank you, Mas Jaki, Pak Lasno.
Okay, the last is Bu Lintang. Time is yours.
All right, thank you, Pak Lasno, and thank you, Pak Zaki. My question is, what makes a good legal translation? Perhaps there are any criteria of making a good legal translation. Can you tell me more about the criteria? Thank you, Pak Zaki and Pak Lasno.
All right, thank you very much for the questioners, Bu Erla, Bu Endang, and Bu Lintang. And now for Mas Zakit, time is yours to make your explanation or to answer this question.
Okay, thank you. The first is about the difficulties of legal translation. Bu Erla asked about, maybe I can share. In our country, maybe there is no law about the fashion we have to wear, but in the Arab world or in Iran, there is law that there is law that that says
Rule,
that
rule.
there is law that says women have to be wear these clothes. So I think in this is the matter of cultural. If we see Indonesia, we consist of various of tribes, various of religions, various of languages. But in Arab or in Iran, there is only one legal religion from the nation. So maybe I can describe these difficulties like that. So there are many things that in the perspective of cultural, in the perspective of language that cannot be translated. Uh, how about my answer, Mbak Erla?
Yeah, okay. Nice
Okay, thank
explanation.
you. Okay. The second question is from Bu Endang. Bu Endang asks about the legal or international law, ya Bu ya? Is it right, Bu? The example of
Yes, Mas Jaki.
international. Okay. Maybe have you heard the Geneva Treaties or Paris Treaties that what is it about if I'm not mistaken, it is about the global warming or climate change. So I think that is international legal. Oh, no. Uh, itu masuknya lo apa bukannya? Or the international legal. Oh, about this. Kejahatan perang itu loh. Apa ya? Kejahatan perang itu apa ya?
War crime.
Nah, maybe it is about war crime. It's a kind of international law or Paris Agreement. So I think Paris Agreement is not the law, but it is a contract. Kesepakatan, consensus, but it is now the law. It is not law. But war crime, I think it's international law. I think that's my answer to Endang.
Yeah, thank you, Mas Jaki.
Okay, thank you. The question from Bu Lintang, how to
what makes good translation, criteria of good translation.
Translation.
Yes, good legal translation.
There are some strategies, but I don't want to enter that area since I don't understand the strategies to do the translation. Maybe I can share this one. Wait a minute.
But there are some criteria, something like expert judgment, something like
No.
that, maybe.
No. I have this one. Wait a minute.
Saki.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah.
Maybe when okay. Maybe when someone make a contract, maybe we make a like legal agreement, between people and companies, and what is it, including the using a legal translation.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That one of the private legal documents. Types of private legal documents. Maybe you can see in the screen that there are some strategies to do a good translation in legal text. One of the strategies is topical theme, but I don't want to enter this area since I don't understand. So if I give this and my understanding based on this this article, I afraid that it will be menyesatkan. What is it? Yeah. There are some strategies to do a good legal translation tool. Maybe I can share the material to you later. I think that's my answer, Pak Lasno.
All right, thank you very much, Mas Zaki and the questioners. And I think our presentation is enough for today. And if you have some question, you can ask Mas Zaki privately, or maybe we can find the source in Google.
Ask Pak Condro. I think it will be better.
You may ask Pak Condro. And I think to ensure the time, we can close this presentation because maybe the next presenter will present the next topic. Okay, let's close our presentation today by saying Alhamdulillah together.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Operator is Mas Fuad. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Lasno. Pak Zaki, would you please make Mbak Anggi to be the host?
Okay. Wait a minute. Make a host. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this second presentation for today's meeting. And for the second presentation, there will be several stages that we are going to have. The first, it is opening. Let's open this second presentation by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, for the next agenda, it is the presentation that will be presented by Mbak Astri Anggitasari, and the topic is about literary translations. So without any further ado, let's welcome our presenter, Mbak Astri Anggitasari, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Mas Fuad, for a great moderator. And wait, I will share the PPT first. Can you see my PowerPoint, Bapak Ibu? Should I slideshow?
It's slideshow, Mbak Anggi.
Yes, it's better.
Wait. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Today I'm going to talk about literary translations. And before I speak about literary translations, I have 4 outline. The first one is about definitions, and then kind of facts of literary translations. And I also have the difficulties. And of course, I also have the strategy to solve the difficulties. Maybe anyone know about what is literary translations?
No.
Translation?
Translating the literary works, I think related to the literacy, literary works like poems or novels, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, okay, exactly right, Mas Fuad. Thank you. Okay, let's check the definition, yeah. I took the definitions from expert, and this one is given by Basne 2007. Literary translations represent a distinctive kind of translating because it is concerned with a distinctive kind of text. And it's also entry on aesthetic, poetic translations, turn out with linguistic and ethnographic and pragmatic translations. Okay, read the first definitions. It means that literary translations deals with many kind of text of literary work or karya sastra. If we talk about translations in general, actually there are 2 kind that two kind of translations. There are literary translation and non-literary translations. Nah, literary translations mostly covers all aspects of translation dimensions, but non-literary translation doesn't. So we can see that literary translations closely related to stylistic dimensions since it deals with tone, rhyme, and the aesthetic aspect. Okay. And then this is the example of kind of text literary translations. The first one is drama, prose, poetry, songs, lyric, and film or subtitle film. Okay, we're going to move about literary translation process. Yeah. Here, the diagram, maybe a diagram about literary translation process. The first one is read original book, and then translate, and then the translator can edit, and then proofread, and the last one is desktop publishings. Actually, there are 3 stages about the literary process. The first one is before translating, and then during translating, and the last one is after the translating or translations. For before the translations, the important that we need to do is reading a book or a text that we are going to translate. We have to know what kind of the text or even genre of it, and at least it gives the opportunity to translator to find and determine the appropriate approach and strategies applied during the translation process. And then during translations, the important action that we need to do is translate. And in this stage, we have to produce the message of source language in the target language, and it is challenging process. Yep. Since in literary translation, the translator deal with a number of problems that they do not face in academic texts. The translator also have to deal with stylistic and pragmatic dimensions, since many literary work cover those 2 aspects. And for editing is also one of the actions during the translations. Yep, it is important. Why? Because since sometimes the translator miss something during the translation process, so it gives them to revise again the translator if there is inappropriate or equivalent word in the target text. And then for proofread, the first step. The proofread focuses on spelling and punctuality or grammar mistakes, and typing error and consistent language and overall format of the translations. And the last one is desktop publishings. It means that after the TEP or translating, editing, proofread process, the book is laid out in and indexed in a proper template. And it is reviewed again and again before printed and published. Okay. And then, okay. The next one is difficulties in literary translation. Wait, nggak kelihatan. Nah, the first one is translating without changing the original tones of the author, and then culturally specific expressions, and then play on word and tongue twister or rhyme, and the last is dialect and slang. Yep. This is the difficulties in literary translations. Okay, we're going to move to one by one about translating without changing the original tones. When a translator wants to translate the text, the translator needs to know the feeling of the author prior to this literary work. It could be happiness, sadness, anger, and etc. And when the translator can understand the feeling, so the translator can determine the proper word which represent the feeling. So the translator doesn't only convey the meaning or information literary, but also the feeling of the author. Yeah, something like that. And then it is the example of poetry from Sapardi Djoko Darmono. Maybe, Bapak Ibu, what is your feeling when you read this? And what do you think about the feeling of the author? Maybe happiness, sadness,
conveying
Love.
feeling
Love.
to someone.
Romance.
Love.
Lovable.
Dramatic, so dramatic gitu,
Yes,
Mbak.
dramatic.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, tepatnya or exactly it is happiness, yeah, love, happiness. Okay, we're going to move about culturally specific expressions. In translating the literary word, culturally specific expressions commonly appears in the text, and if the translator does know the culture involved source and target language, it will make a gap in this translation, and it will make the product in the target language has equivalent meaning. Yeah, this is the example of culturally specific expressions. This is the Australian culture and Indonesian culture. In Australian culture, I live in the bush, and the Indonesian culture, saya tinggal di kampung. Yeah. If we just understanding the text literary, we will miss the true meaning of the sentence. So in this context, the translator must know the culture in Australia. In addition, the translator will translate the word bush, yeah, into proper word, gitu. And then, okay, and then wordplay. In wordplay, when we are translating a text that play on word and content tongue twister, we have to deal with more one dimensions. We cannot deal with semantic dimension only. And we also need to consider the other dimensions such as pragmatic dimension, semiotic dimension, stylistic dimension, and and of course, we cannot have 100% accurate in all dimension, and we have to know first the objective of the text. It is tongue twister, so it emphasizes more in the tone, so the stylistic dimension will be more dominant. But if it is like novel or short story, which emphasizes on the meaning or information, so the pragmatic and semantic dimension will be more dominant. Yeah, this is the example. Seesaw, seashell by the seashores. Yeah, in here about dialect and slang. Okay. Literary word contains the dialect slang, whatever it is. If it will be a novel or poetry, and we will not find the dialect and slang in academic translation or formal translations, of course, because it is a part of the local culture of the source text. So the translator have to know the approach in translating the term. Okay, this is the strategy how the translator cope with the difficulties. The first one is don't forget communicate with other. The second one is do not start translating until the translator are confident about their knowledge of the book. And a bilingual translator is not enough for a literary translations. And then follow a strict literary translation process. And the last one is read, read, and read. It means that don't forget to communicate with other. It means that ask them about the author you have been bothering about. And the second one is do not start translating until the translator are confident. If the translator do not understand and convey the meaning properly, they cannot expect the readers to have the right perceptions. And then a bilingual translator is not enough for a literary translations. So the translator needs more information about the cultural background about the text and follow a strict literary translation process, as I mentioned, and as I mentioned it before in the beginning. Please follow an optimal process to guarantee the progress and quality of your translated. And don't stop reading relevant book or topic to expand your vocabulary or knowledge that have a direct effect on your translated book. And then, okay, maybe that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite you to give some suggestion aja. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, thank you so much for the presenter for delivering his presentation. It's a very nice presentation talking about literary translation. And yet still, even though it's very good presentation, I'm inviting some questioners among the participants. So who wants to give the questions? You may just unmute your microphone or just raise your hand, please.
Supriyatin, Mas.
Bu Supriyatin. Okay, Bu Supri.
May I ask the question now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Anggi, for your very nice presentation. I just want to know in the literary translation, how does the translator know that he or she is successful in translating the text? Thank you, Mbak Anggi. Thank you, Mas Fuad.
Okay, so what about the other participant? Is there any more questions? Is there any other questions?
Me.
Okay, Bu Lintang, please, Bu Lintang.
Mbak Anggi, is there any requirement that must be done in translating literary works? Can you tell me more about it? Thank you.
Okay, we have two questions, and then any more question? One last question for these sessions. Is there any? Okay, then. So for today's for this first session for Q&A, we have two questions. The first question is from Bu Supri. It's about how do you know that your literary translation is successful? Would you please answer that question, Mbak Anggi?
Okay, Bu, thank you. I'll try to answer question from Bu Supri first ya. is the literary translation? How does the translator know that she or he is successful or not? Yeah. Scientifically, yeah, as I read the journal before, Larson 1991 stated that to find out the quality or not the result of translation literary work, a translation must allow his translated work to be tested. Jadi harus diujikan kepada, contohnya misalnya kita menerjemahkan sebuah karya sastra, kemudian diujikan kepada autor atau mengujikan kepada orang lain seperti itu. Nah, untuk yang secara tidak ilmiah or unscientific, maybe when we translate literary work and our client or yang orang yang kita terjemahkan karyanya feel satisfied and with our product, yeah, especially with our product translation, yeah, and then good, and then they will ask for his work to be translated again, gitu. Datang kembali ke kitanya karena merasakan puas dengan karya yang sudah kita terjemahkan, begitu Bu. Untuk Bu Lintang, may I?
Yes, please. It's about the requirements for the literary translation process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bu. Basically, there are no special requirement, Bu, of literary translation. However, we as a translator, yeah, must still have the competence in the field of literatur. Jadi tidak ada persyaratan khusus di dalam penerjemahan teks karya sastra, tetapi harus memiliki kompetensi di bidang sastra seperti itu, Bu. For example, individual prasyarat individual itu sebagai translator itu seperti understanding the search language, and then mastering and being able to understand the language properly, and then knowing and understanding the
feel,
feel, and then theories of literatur, and translating theory. Yeah. So by fulfilling the requirements, the translation of literary text will be conveyed with the meaning and the message or information. Iya, gitu Bu. Is it? Aduh, sampai aku bingung.
Yes, thank you.
Satisfied or not, Bu?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bu.
Okay, since the answer has the question has been answered, I'm inviting more question if there are some more questions from the participants. We still have quite a lot of time. Is there any more questions?
Me, Mas Fuad.
Okay, please, Bu Endang.
Mbak Anggi, nice presentation. Mbak Anggi, I just want to know about slang, a dialect word, a dialect slang in translation.
Dialect and slang translation ya, Bu?
Dialect slang on the last slide, maybe.
Wait, Bu. Gimana ya jelasinnya? May I have a time to?
Yes, please. Yes, please. We
Yes,
have
of course.
a lot of time. We still at
Maybe
2.
Mas Fuad can help Mbak Astri. Maybe Mas Fuad can help Mbak Astri.
Oh, okay. So what is the question actually, Bu Endang? What is the question, Bu Endang? I just missed
Okay,
the
Mas
connection here.
Fuad, sorry.
Yeah.
On the last slide on Mbak Anggi's presentation, there is dialect slang.
Oh, dialect and slang.
Dialect slang in translation. Yeah, would like.
Oh, the example you mean?
No, oh yes, about it.
Mbak Anggi, do you want to answer? Or yes, I can.
We can look at the context.
Yeah, actually, if I'm allowed to speak up, if we see the dialect or the slang, sometimes it becomes one of the problem during the translation, literary translations, because it deals with the specific expression with the language. For example, OMG. OMG is not a formal language, and we have to know the culture first. What is the meaning of OMG? And then there is other words, just like YOLO. Do you know YOLO? YOLO? YOLO. Come on. Let's go for vacation. YOLO. YOLO, you only live once. That's the example of slang. And sometimes we cannot translate it into the target language exactly the same, just like what we write in the source text. For example, Titi DJ, hati-hati di jalan. How do you translate it in the target language? It's not quite easy because you have to consider all of the dimensions, pragmatic dimension, semantic dimension as well, and also the stylistic dimension for this one. And if we talk about dialect, I'm not sure about this, but if the example is Japanese, Banyumasan, for example, the dialect looks so clear. For example, the word bok, iambok, iako. The word bok or ko, we cannot translate it into English. So what is the translation word of ko and bok? We cannot do that. And mostly we find this kind of example of the dialect in novel, in what is it, The Dancer from Ahmad Tohari. It is translated into many languages, including English. And I think there are many kinds of expression which represent the dialect of Banyumasan. And I don't think that it is very easy to translate it for the dialect terms. That's what I know so far. What about others? Maybe the other have any other opinion? I'm inviting for the further discussions.
I think it's clear explanation from Mas Fuad. Yeah.
Thank you, Mas Fuad.
Thank you very much, Mas Fuad.
Okay. Yes. Same. Well, I'm inviting others to come to have the discussion. If there is any other issues that we can discuss is about literary translation especially, or any comment or questions or suggestion for the presenter. Is there any?
We finish at 2:40. Should we finish at that time?
Actually, yes, but if we don't have any other agenda, so I think we can end this meeting. Okay, so there is no question. So if there is no question, then thank you so much for having this presentation. And for the second presentation, it is about literary translation. To conclude this presentation, there are many kinds of steps that we have to do for the translation. The first is reading the original book, and the second step is translation, or the process of translation itself, and the third one, it is editing, and the fourth step is proofreading, and the fifth is desktop publishing. So we have to stick with these five process when we are translating the literary translation, so that we can find the best product of the translation. Thank you so much for joining this presentation. Let's end this session by reciting Hamdalah together.
Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim.
So thank you so much again, and wherever you are, stay healthy, and don't forget to eat enough food and drink enough water. Thank you. Have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Thank you Mas Fuad, Mbak
Thank
Anggi.
you Mas Fuad.
Thank you Bapak
Thank
Ibu,
you.
Mas Fuad, thank you.
Sehat.
Thank you, Mbak Anggi.
Terima
Thank
kasih.
you, Pak Lasno. Thank you,
Iya.
Pak Zaki.
Thank you
and
sama-sama
others as well.
Pak,
Thank you so
Bu,
much.
Mas
Bang Anggi
Fuad.
jangan malu-malu bilang thank you-nya ke Mas Fuad.